Let's try this one last time. Kinda. So it's been a while. A long while, and the truth is I've attempted to record this episode not once, not twice, but 3 times prior. 3. Now all 3 times I let the camera roll and pretty much went on for between half an hour to an hour. And every time I loaded up the footage into my PC, I couldn't bear to watch it all the way through. And if I couldn't get through it, I doubt any of you would either. So today's episode is being done a little differently. It may look the same, but it might sound a little different because this time, it's written. Yep, that's right. As opposed to being off the cuff and speaking off the top of my head, I'm actually looking at a teleprompter that's rigged to the camera and reading all of this that I wrote last night. Why is it written? Well, even though I don't have a problem with talking off the cuff and improvising, the last 3 episodes dragged on way too long, and each time after recording it, I'd realize I didn't mention something or clarify something else. And why did it drag on and even I found it unbearable to watch? Simple. Because all 3 times I was still in a heavy state of depression. Now I've spoken about my depression a number of times on this channel, but I don't think any of you have seen me in it or heard me during it. Except maybe the video where I admitted that I have depression, but I don't think I've been as raw on camera as I have on the past 3 attempts. And whilst I openly admit that I suffer from it and have spoken about it before, it's still something I'm not comfortable to show to the public. Mainly because it's fucking embarrassing. The truth is, I've been spiraling down further and further into depression over the past 2 months, and that is one of the many reasons I haven't been vlogging. First, it was the exhaustion post-shoot, then got a bit busy for a job, and then there were no jobs. None. And as the days progressed into weeks, the future started looking more and more bleak. You see, I had a plan, and as always, things happened. Originally, the TV series I was shooting, Hotel Chai Bulan, was supposed to wrap by the end of February. My plan was, after the craziness that was the months leading up to the shoot, where I was juggling like multiple jobs and the intensive pre-production for the show, I wanted to take a break, do some of my own stuff at the studio, and sort out my house. I wanted to take a month to myself and also line up some work for the following month. I'd get one of the payments for the show at the end of February, do my own thing for a month, and get back on the grind. And as the few of you who watch these know, I didn't wrap in February. Instead, due to COVID complications that kept slowing down the shoot and of course catching it myself, we wrapped at the end of March. We still got paid at the end of Feb, so I was fine for the whole month, but I didn't have anything lined up for after I'd wrapped, because that final month was crazy. I went from having severe symptoms dealing with catching COVID to catching up with the shoot still groggy from my experience. It was a pretty mad rush, and for all of us, we were just trying to get to the finish line, which thankfully we did. But after the elation of wrapping the show, I came home and slowly it dawned on me. I don't have any future income lined up. None. I had future payments left for the show, but they have to finish post and release it first, so until that happens, I had nothing coming in. And I don't know why this slipped my mind, but I also totally forgot it was fasting month by the time I'd finished the shoot, which basically means the majority of people were already in production getting all the festive season content done before the end of fasting month leading up to Hari Raya, or Eid. I had 2 jobs in April, a small editing job and a small shoot. That money went pretty quick for food, bills, and everything else, and as the days progressed, I tried to keep myself busy in the studio doing the things I wanted to do, but the truth is my financial situation was constantly in the back of my head. And as the days went by and the finances looked worse, it got me thinking about my so-called career. You know, on the one hand, I was a director on a TV series, but in all honesty, I hadn't been hired to do mainstream television since around 2008 or 2009, around there. By the time I was approached to do this TV series, I had completely given up on the mainstream industry. But the truth is, being on that set reminded me that whilst yes, I'm a cinematographer, and yes, I'm an editor, and a whole bunch of other things, when it comes to filmmaking, I really enjoy directing above all else on set. And when it's a nice-sized crew and a fun cast, even more so. Shooting the series with all its ups and downs and many stressful moments reminded me that this is what I used to do and that I enjoy doing it. For the past couple of years, I've been doing mostly cinematography and editing jobs because those jobs were more available. Even when I got to direct, it's usually whilst shooting and at times editing as well. But rates have been getting lower and lower and lower, especially once COVID came into play, but more importantly, they stayed low till now, even though everyone's pretty much acting like the pandemic is over. In those previous episodes leading up to shooting the series, I kept talking about how busy I was and how exhausted I was juggling everything. I was working non-stop, and all that work barely covered living expenses during those months. It was a pandemic. We were in various states of lockdown, then partial lockdown, then lockdown again. So I took any job that was offered me like anyone else. And I'm honestly thankful for those jobs because that's how I survived during that time. But since I'm being honest, just 2 years prior, one of those jobs would have paid the same amount as 3 of them. That's not even an exaggeration. True story, last week I was offered an editing job for a TV series. They wanted me to edit the offline and do all the online color grading, titles and sound mix for 1-hour episodes, and their budget was less than 60% of what I was paid just a year earlier, just before the pandemic hit, for editing just the offline for 30-minute episodes. And even better, it wasn't for local TV. It was for another country, a country with a much stronger currency. That's the state of the going rates in my industry here in Malaysia right now. During the pandemic, we all would take whatever we could, both filmmakers and clients. I was editing feature-length videos for the price of 5-minute videos and 90-second videos for half my minimum rate. Some of these were to help people I knew, but some of them were for big companies. And by the time I reached the last weekend of April, I was completely rock bottom. At my absolute worst point, I was bawling in that old room of mine that got water damage during the storm, throwing the damaged furniture at the walls and crying and screaming and howling my ass off. 2 days before Hari Raya. So how did I survive? I got help and some loans from some friends. You know who you are, and I'm forever grateful to you all, which helped get me through the first half of May. I got another small half-day shoot on the second week of May, which was supposed to pay in 2 weeks, which became 3, which became last Monday, over 2.5 weeks late. So whilst waiting endlessly for that money to come in, I sold off some of my camera equipment. Basically, half of the stuff I used for that shoot in May, I don't have anymore. And I'm putting more stuff up online to sell because I honestly don't know what the future holds. Now, whilst I'd hit my lowest in terms of depression at the end of April, I was slowly recovering from it, but still very much in it. And then, a week after that shoot in May, something else happened. My slipped disc reverted to worse than when I was first diagnosed with it. The pain was absolutely unbearable, and for a good 3 days or so, I was using a walking stick. I couldn't even turn around in bed without using it for support. So whatever money I had also had to go into treatment for that. Financial stress, worries over my career, depression, existential dread, and now physical problems as well. And that doesn't include all the other stuff I'd rather not talk about publicly. So all in all, it's been a fucked up 2 months, and the effects of it all are still very much there. But it hasn't been completely terrible. There have been moments. Throughout all this, I rediscovered the blues, a genre of music I've always loved, but at this age and with everything happening, I was looking at it from a completely different perspective, and playing the blues has been my solace through these tough times. I haven't played this much guitar since my gigging days, and I've been learning a bunch of songs I never would dare approach before. So much so that my fingers are so calloused my touchscreen devices can't read them. It all kind of started with making that diddly bow, which in turn led me through a rabbit hole of its origins and going back to that early turn of the century blues, like all that old Library of Congress stuff. So all that time spent in the studio, I was making guitars. I made a 3-string slide cigar box guitar, a 4-string pet bowl resonator, and I'm planning a few other builds. Spending that time on my hands just working on wood and glue and screws and electrics helped take my mind off a lot of the issues going on and helped keep some of those creative juices going through those dark times. There was also the Geeks in Malaysia 10-year anniversary, which was also a lot of fun. It was our first time doing the podcast with an audience, which was different, but still a hoot, and probably the first social event I attended since 2019. And while some clients have now dried up post-pandemic, either because they have better options than me or they've got their own equipment to do stuff now, or whatever reason, some of those clients haven't forgotten that I reduced my rates for them during the pandemic. I just got off the phone with one earlier for a possible job, and their worry is I've quoted too low because they want to make up for my last quote during the pandemic, which is nice. Even those 3 depressing attempts at recording this vlog led to something. Me writing again. You see, the last time I was writing regularly was probably back in 2014. Ever since my family's first PC back in '95, I've been stuck to the keyboard writing. Hell, even before then, I was writing in diaries by hand since '92. But around 2014, back when I was having my last crisis of faith of what I was doing in this industry, I stopped. I felt I didn't have anything to express, no script anyone would want to buy, no blog post that anyone would bother reading, no tweet that was even worth tweeting. And after the first time getting diagnosed with a slipped disc, I've kept my time in front of a computer to a bare minimum. So no long hours just browsing and blogging or writing scripts. Sit down, get the edit done, render, get back up and stretch. Writing this post has at least helped me remember that I always considered myself a writer first, above everything else. It was the first skill I could do well and can confidently and objectively say is something I can do. Whether you like it or not is entirely subjective, but I can write. Writing also always helped clarify these jumbled up thoughts in my head and, just streamline them, especially when you're going through something like depression. Like when you're in it, you really wish you could explain what it is that's going on. You wish that someone would understand and take away all that pain. And unfortunately, that's something you got to figure out how to do yourself. It's one of the many reasons I didn't want to post those previous takes. I've been down this road a few times during past severe breakdowns. I've sat across well-meaning friends or girlfriends and poured my heart out over everything and watched as it goes from genuine concern and care to getting bored at the repetition to finally frustration. I know I've lost some friends and broken up with some girls because of this. I know how frustrating it can be listening to this broken clock tell the same time every time. I remember a friend of mine who was studying filmmaking, and he asked me to have a look at his script for a short film he had to make for the class. It was a story about a depressed person who'd reached his limit and was going to commit suicide when an angel intervenes and helps show him life is still worth living. It was 10 pages, but like 5 or 6 of them were basically a monologue of how he was feeling. It was good that he wrote it all out, but I told him that he needs to get those 5 pages down to half a page and figure out what he really wants to say. Concisely and to the point. That's what this is. Whatever I'm saying now would be after I've written it, gone through it, practiced it, timed it, made changes till it does the job without rambling more than I intend to. And because I'm enjoying this process more, that leads me to this vlog and its future. Now, this all started off as an experiment. We had gone into lockdown again, all my previous plans had to change, and I wanted to still create stuff and keep the filmmaking muscles active. And it was a good exercise. It helped me see what works, what doesn't, try a few things, be creative. What was tricky was a lot of times either not that much happened that was that interesting or things were the same as the week before. And I'm not the type of guy with a crazy lifestyle that a lot of people want to tune into every week to find out what's going on. Some weeks I really had something to say a show. Other weeks I either didn't have much to report or was basically in the same boat as the week before or couldn't talk about stuff because there's an NDA because it's a shoot. So for now, I'm ending what I like to call the first season of this vlog series. This doesn't mean the show's over, and there are other videos that I'll be posting, but in terms of let's try this again, I do want to try it a bit differently for the next season. I came up with this idea of these vlogs around my birthday last year, and I'm hitting that milestone again next week. 42 years old. So we'll see what the future holds regarding this channel and my life another time. But until then, I want to say a couple thank yous. Firstly, to all of you who, for some weird reason, still watch this when the numbers went from over 200 to under 50. Your views and comments are much appreciated, and for reals, this is off script, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. And secondly is to all those people that helped me out when times were tough. I couldn't have survived the past 2 months without y'all, and I hope I can repay my debts to you all soon. But until then, thanks everybody. And I hope I see you soon.